We're on.
Thank you. Find your piece of cake. Okay, we're live. You will be.
See that? I think I can get one ready. I'll defer to Deb. We live?
Amber, how are we sitting? Okay? Everyone ready? It's time to call the Ferrisburg City Council meeting for Monday, October 21st, 2024 to order. Amber, could you call a roll call, please?
Councilmember Montgomery. Councilmember Sias.
Here.
Councilmember Murdoch. Councilmember Kate.
Here.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Here.
Councilmember Sturley.
Here.
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Your Honor,
Yes.
ask that summary be
Support.
Motion and support.
Councilmember Sias.
Yay.
Councilmember Sturley.
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch.
yes.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Kate.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Approved.
We could all rise for the invocation by Councilmember Kate, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in prayer. Gracious God, we thank you so much for the blessings and the gifts that you pour out upon us each and every day. We thank you now for your gift of government, that kingdom of the left hand that you have entrusted to our care. And we pray for your guidance and your leadership as we attempt to exercise that gift tonight. We also ask that you would look on this world, this war-torn, tired world, and grant us peace where there is indeed no peace. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Now is the time for public comments. This time on the agenda for any citizen to direct brief comments or questions to the City Council. After you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comments and try to limit them to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment tonight? Very good. Debbie, could you check that microphone, please? Make sure it's on.
There it is.
There it is. Thank you.
Now I'll stay way back. Lisa Royce, 17700 Navajo. I also am here about the sign ordinance. Maybe we can add Muskegon onto that because I have House of Muskegon, called them. They're unlimited. It is a violation. I think that City Council needs to go over and rewrite it because it is limiting our free speech. There's tons, especially in a presidential year, that you can't have two signs. And we all know, some of us know, have been watching for years, Kathleen Kennedy was on the Planning Commission and had banners on her house and fought it, and she wrote the law. And I fought with her in Spring Lake Township about it. And I mean, this limitation has to stop. Be able to freely say, and I'm all for 3 days after the election, they need to be removed, or you can do things like that, but I don't think you should be able to limit the speech. There is tons of proposals out there. There's tons of people running for all different kinds of stuff, not just the presidential. You know, I just really think that city council needs to look over and get on board with the other ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with any public comment tonight? Yes,
Mayor
sir.
Carlson, I was expecting to speak when the topic is on your agenda. Should I speak now or hold my peace?
You could talk a little bit in public comment if you'd like in support of it, or?
Thank you.
Or wait.
Gary Post, 18827 North Shore Drive. It was news to me when I started hearing from the city manager that Ferrisburg had a unique, unusual little law limiting yard signs to 2, even though we live in a tri-city community where our sister communities have unlimited signs in the 30 days before the election and up to 7 days to take them down afterwards. I think there's maybe some confusion about the idea that it's okay for cities to have time, place, and manner regulations where you're balancing other community interests, like trying to have nice-looking neighborhoods and not trashy neighborhoods with maybe too many signs. But as the other speakers have mentioned, we're talking about First Amendment rights here. We're not talking about just a yard sale or a bake sale or you know, my son graduated from high school. These are First Amendment rights, and there are many, many candidates. And I know no matter which political party you're affiliated with, there are many candidates people want to support. And coming in and saying only 2, I'm sorry, you have to rotate your signs. And it's when you have a regulation that is unreasonable and you're dealing with free speech, the upshot is that that's unconstitutional. You can have a reasonable regulation. For instance, don't put your signs up 30 days before the election and take them down 7 days after. But when there are so many ballot questions and so many candidates fighting for our attention, citizens have a right to have an unlimited number of signs to try to communicate as best they can their free speech. So thank you for your consideration. I'm specifically asking that you waive enforcement of this rule through the election, and that city staff notify anyone who has received a letter threatening a citation over this matter, so that they will know that, in fact, for the remainder of the election cycle, they could put out additional signs.
Okay.
And that the suspension should be announced on the city website. And I hope Planning Commission or some other agency will review this in the future and will come back with something better. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else with any additional public comment? Seeing none, let's move forward if we could. Item 6A is consideration of approval of the consent agenda, which is approve the October 7th, 2024 City Council minutes as printed. So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Amber?
Councilmember Stierle.
Yes.
Councilmember Murdock.
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Kate.
Yes.
Councilmember Sias.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to new business 7A, discussion and to take action if appropriate to adopt a resolution to dissolve the City of Ferrisburg Economic Development Corporation. Craig, you want to update us with this?
Yes. So earlier this year, we found out that there was an economic development corporation developed in the city back in the late 80s. The Brownfield Authority has reviewed it and recommend that that corporation be dissolved. We advertised for positions to be on the board. We have 9 members on it. We met a couple weeks ago. The board voted to dissolve that corporation. And the next step would be for City Council to approve that resolution, and then we'll send it to the state to get it certified.
Very good. Well, I would certainly entertain a motion to dissolve the Economic Development Corporation. So moved. Support. Motion and support. Any discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Craig, was there any discussion on creating a new economic task force at that meeting?
No, first step was to dissolve this corporation.
Okay. Are we gonna have that on the agenda soon?
Yes.
Any other comments? Seeing none, Amber?
Councilmember Murdoch?
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Kate?
Yes.
Councilmember Sias?
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley?
Yes.
Mayor Carlson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Moving on, 7B, discussion and to take action if appropriate to approve a quote from Tucker Marine Construction for $20,000 even for William Ferry Park seawall project.
This is a project that's been started late last December. City Council approved a contract to put a new seawall in there. The contractor started in February, and due to circumstances, he walked off the job. So we've been working piecemeal to try to get this finished. This is the last step to complete that seawall, is putting the toe stone on it, and there's a small repair that needs to be done on the seawall on the water side.
And this 20,000 includes both
Yes,
the repair and the toe wall.
yes.
You want to explain to City Council exactly what the toe wall is?
The seawall?
This is, where that is located compared to the seawall.
It's probably right in the middle of the seawall. There's a gas main going through there. And then when the contractor put that seawall in there, it didn't go down far enough. So there's a little hole in there, or there's a hole in there. Water's getting in there and washing out. So we want to repair that, block it up.
And then the stone that's going to be installed is actually going to be underwater
Correct.
at the bottom of the new seawall.
Right.
For erosion control,
Correct.
right?
And that's required by our permits.
Okay, very good. Anyone else have anything on that?
Your Honor.
Yes.
Craig, what is our option as far as going after the guy that actually bid this? He bid this as a completed job, correct?
Yes,
And he has walked off the job?
that's correct.
As our legal representatives looking at this?
I can ask him to, yes.
Okay. Any update on that?
Yep, I'll check with him.
Okay, thank you.
I certainly have had discussions with Craig about it, like onward, as once we knew the fellow was not gonna be able to do the job and we were out sniffing around, it's like, okay, what recourse do we have after the fact?
The other question I have is, at a previous discussion, there was some concern whether he paid his subcontractors. Has any of that been resolved, or are we still?
There was some discussion on that. I haven't heard anything from any subcontractors that they haven't been paid. I did check with the contractor that provided the metal for the seawall, and we have something in writing from him that he was paid in full.
But the other subs, we're not sure of?
I'm not sure what other subs he had. My understanding, he did rent a tugboat, and there was some question on whether he got paid in full on that one or not.
So technically, they could still sue the city to get recoup their cost, even though we paid the general, correct?
Correct.
So we're still possibly have a liability outstanding.
I'll review that with the city attorney.
I think, yeah, let's work on that and get us an update. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything regarding this?
Your Honor, would you like a motion?
Please.
I make a motion to approve a quote from Tucker Marine Construction for $20,000 for the William Ferry Park seawall project.
Support.
Amber, go ahead.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Kate?
Yes.
Councilmember Sias?
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley?
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch?
Yes.
Mayor Carlson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Very good. Agenda item 7C, discussion to take action if appropriate to pause enforcement of zoning ordinance. Article 7, Section 7.70, which limits the number of temporary signs per parcel until 7 days after the election. Greg, what's bringing this to our attention? What's driving this?
So there's a number of residents that have called City Hall and indicated that certain properties have more than 2 signs that which permitted by the zoning ordinance. So we know some property owners that there's a limit on the number of signs that can be placed on 42 days or 45 days before election. And we received a request from one property owner that the ordinance be waived for the period of time for the election so that parcels can have multiple signs pertaining to the election out on the property.
Okay. Gary, did you want to come up to the podium for a while? The reason I have Gary up here right now is that Gary and Craig and I had been doing some emailing back and forth regarding the sign ordinance, and that's why it's on the agenda for us to discuss tonight. We heard your public comments tonight. Did you have anything else to add?
I would just say that as Lisa Royce and Mike Campbell and I have tried to say in public comment, Ferrisburg is out of step with the surrounding communities, and I know some people may dislike the plethora of yard signs and, you know, why does one person have the same candidate 5 signs in another community, and do we really want to go there? The thing is, we're dealing with First Amendment rights. These are really precious rights, and it's not just a yard sale, and it's not year-round, it's just the lead-up time for the election. I ask you to really keep that in mind. You know, we can have different positions politically, but these are really special rights, and we're in the Halloween season, and we're seeing some really over-the-top, crazy Halloween decorations on people's homes, ghosts and skeletons and things like that. And so the idea that we're pursuing a legitimate city objective and trying to have a nice-looking neighborhood when, on the other hand, if it's a Halloween display, you can do whatever you want. I think you have to ask yourself, what's the logic in this? And I think what you see in the sister cities where they say, just don't put your signs out too early and take them down within a week after the election, those are reasonable regulations, and possibly the size of the signs. But limiting it to 2 is a form of unreasonable content regulation when, you know, you have to pick 1 or 2 races and say, that's all I'm allowed to speak about. And there are so many races that we're all interested in. So I really ask that you consider waiving this tonight.
Okay. Anyone here
Your
have
Honor.
any comments?
I have some questions for Craig. When was this ordinance created?
It was revised in 2017.
And what was the basis for it at that time?
So there was regulations or requirements that there was a case that went to the Supreme Court over the content on the sign. So the Supreme Court ruled you can't regulate what the sign says, but you can regulate the number, location, and the size. So we revised our ordinance to comply with that.
So we felt compelled as a city to enforce some sort of regulation because of that Supreme
Yes.
Court
Yes.
decision?
Your
Okay.
Honor, question for Craig. Craig, isn't it true under this ordinance, up to 2 weeks before the election, you can have multiple signs out?
The ordinance reads now 45 days before election, you can have 2 temporary signs on your parcel till 7 days after the election.
Okay. I understood it as you could have multiple signs 2 weeks before the election, 14 days prior to the election, you could put multiple signs out?
Zoning ordinance regulates 1 sign and then 2 signs 45 days before election. That's it.
Your Honor, I don't,
Go ahead, Mike.
this election ain't any different than any other election. Any national election, we have multiple candidates running for multiple positions. I can go either way. I don't really care one way or another. I think we should enforce the ordinance as it's written, or kick it to the planning commission. They have every right to ordinance.
Your Honor,
Yes.
just me personally, I support pausing this ordinance for now and then having someone revisit it after the election. We don't have time to act on the ordinance now for the election. I think, we have a room full of people here that are expressing their desire for us to be flexible. I think it's a reasonable request. And I think that we should pause it and then revisit it after the election.
Do you need a motion, Your Honor?
I'd just like to say one thing, and that was in our packet, our Friday packet, was some information that included something from Dave Jarosik, our planner, as well as from Brooke Bissonette, legal counsel. And one of the ideas that David came up with, the planner, was to potentially delay or pause enforcement, which was what was reiterated by legal counsel.
That's correct.
So that is something that city council could do now. We could act on that now.
That's correct.
And then toss it towards planning commission.
Correct.
Would anyone be amenable to that?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion if you need.
Please.
Okay. I'd like to make a notion to pause enforcement zoning ordinance Article 7, Section 7.70, which limits the number of temporary signs per parcel until 7 days after election, until which time Planning Commission can review and possibly change the ordinance article. And the reason I'm doing this is I kind of am on the fence about it. I don't like multiple signs in yards. I think it starts to look a little bit messy and sloppy, and people sometimes tend to leave the signs up. But I'm going to support this because I really think that this is wasting a lot of staff's time, and I think it's angering a lot of citizens with the threatening letters. And I think to keep peace in the city, and I don't see a reason why not to go forward with this, other than my personal opinion that I think it looks a little messy sometimes, but that's not a reason for me to disagree with it. So I'm
Very
going to
good.
move forward.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'm going to support that.
Okay, very good. Motion and support on the floor. Yes, sir.
There's someone
We
who
had a
wants to
comment.
speak. Your Honor.
Oh, Debbie, go ahead.
I just want to say, I already said about, the size with Kathleen Kennedy's sign, but also back in, when did you run? We had a township official steal signs 3 times, had proof, filed a suit against him, and it got knocked out. So what does that say? They were caught with it. I mean, they're not enforceable. So you might not like what it looks like. Some people don't like Christmas decorations, and like somebody else said, Halloween. It is our political voice that is being, maybe when the planners come back, one sign for each person that's out there. You can't duplicate or something, but I don't think that, we're going in the right direction to stop people's First Amendment speech rights, so.
Understood.
They don't follow through when they do get caught
Yeah.
stuff, or
Any other comments from council before we take a vote?
I think we
Seeing,
need support for.
no?
Supported.
Oh, you did?
Deb,
Oh, okay,
we have a
sorry.
motion and support. Amber?
Councilmember DeWitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Kate.
Yes.
Councilmember Sias.
Yes.
Councilmember Sterling.
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to 7D work session, community energy plan.
Good evening, Mayor Carlson. My name is Gary Post. My address is 18827 North Shore Drive. I am the Ferrisburg representative to the Community Energy Plan Steering Committee and also the chair of that committee. In addition to myself, we have 3 other speakers here tonight to help you understand the CEP and some of the surrounding issues and information. I'd first like to touch on how we got here. The City of Grand Haven formed a new city committee in 2022 called the Sustainability and Energy Committee. One of the first projects that committee undertook was to pursue the creation of a community energy plan similar to the one created in the City of Holland. In this case, the intended coverage area would not just be the city of Grand Haven, but as much as possible of the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power service area, including Ferrisburg. Since that time, Ferrisburg agreed to participate in the creation of a community energy plan for the BLP area and made a contribution of $7,500 toward the plan process. Since that time, Grand Haven Township joined Ferrisburg and Grand Haven in supporting this project, including financial support, and also the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation, the Laudet Foundation, and the State of Michigan Eagle contributed financially. The steering committee sent out a request for proposal, and we interviewed 3 different consulting firms to help us manage the process. And then we selected a local company called Michigan Energy Options to help us form the CEP. I have participated with the committee that is represented from citizens and public representatives from the surrounding communities in many workshops, open houses, community survey, and we've worked to try to create a great plan that people will really be excited about. What is a community energy plan? A community energy plan is a roadmap for managing energy needs in a smarter, more efficient, and more sustainable manner. It benchmarks a community's energy use and provides recommendations for reducing energy waste, decreasing environmental impacts, and boosting the local economy by promoting things like renewable energy sources, energy-efficient buildings, smarter transportation choices, and it helps the community define their collective energy goals and take steps toward achieving them. Ultimately, it's about creating a healthier, more resilient community for everyone. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ryan Cotton. Ryan is going to speak about home energy retrofits and the experience of the City of Holland in their community energy plan.
Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure to be back here again. I live at 515 Park Avenue, Grand Haven. Some of you know me from prior public service in the area and also from being here before. As Gary mentioned, I'm going to focus in on one major element of the community energy plan in Holland, given that I was city manager at that time and worked with the Board of Public Works to help make it happen. And this answers the question that sometimes we've fielded at this meeting, and that is, what's the return on investment for the residents of the community which has a community energy plan? So next slide, if you would. I want to say first off that I mentioned return on investment. My motivation has principally to do with the fact that when we returned to this area, people who knew what had happened in Holland asked me, could I be part of something like that here? I'm on the Sustainability and Energy Commission you just heard about, and a small group began to work on this and learn about what Holland did. We did a field trip there to update ourselves as well as part of this process. So I'm motivated every time I see a home in January with icicles down to, basically the porch. That signifies that that home is wasteful in terms of its energy use. It's not as comfortable, it's drafty, and it is really a drain on a person's pocketbook. On top of that, it's a drain on the tax base. It represents some dilapidation or some room for improvement anyway. So that's what's motivated me to be part of this for about 3 years now. Next slide, please. So I want to make sure I learn something new every time at one of these meetings about what Ferrisburg has done. I really want to compliment you on rooftop solar, that it's obvious when you walk in, on your participation in the green energy program, that you can purchase solar energy for your buildings. That's something that we've been trying to support and communicate and will do more of during this community energy plan. And you're already there. And so we hope that many communities, many property owners, building owners will follow some of your leads as part of this community energy plan. Next slide. So what are the deliverables as it deals with home energy retrofits, which is energy waste reduction? Next slide, if you would. I have a video after this, and then about 4 more slides if you're wondering about time. Basically, there was 2 approaches that were taken. One is known as deep energy retrofits with the utilization or not of on-bill financing to support some people who didn't have the means, with a target of 50% gas and electricity savings. And or something that now Holland has been using called Energy 101, there should be a little parentheses here, which has a target of 15% energy savings for a homeowner. Next slide. So this video, it's 4 minutes. We're gonna cut it off at 3 minutes. Tells you a little bit about the impetus of what they've done in Holland. And if you scroll down to, there you go.
One of the goals coming out of the community plan was to try to look at ways of getting retrofit our housing stock here in Holland. And looking at that, we identified that one of the ways that we might be able to help enable that for our customers would be to try to find a loan program. One of the key goals coming out of the community plan was to try to look at ways of getting to the energy retrofits in our housing stock here in Holland. And looking at that, we identified that one of the ways that we might be able to help enable that for our customers would be to try to find a loan program that would be one-stop shopping, essentially, where they could do the energy retrofit and place the loan right on their electric bill so they could actually repay it over time. That's called on-bill financing.
Now we have this on-bill financing possibility that you can have your home assessed, get personalized, individualized ideas on what to do in your situation, in your home. We'll give you what that would cost. Take that then and put it on your bill, and the amount of money that you will save, you're guaranteeing you're going to save money on your bill, will go to pay it off. And we can help you.
That's what you see with the on-bill program, that having the longer terms provides greater affordability for homeowners, having the underwriting criteria just be on-time bill payment history opens it up to a greater number of people. Those are distinct components of the on-bill program that you can't find in other forms of financing. The whole investment of $2,000 really only amounts to a couple of dozens of dollars per month over a 10-year period. So it makes it easier for people to say yes to these big improvements that are going to pay off in the long run.
Like, these homes need a lot of work, and it is balanced between all those things that I have mentioned before, between the weatherization, windows, appliances, AC equipment. And when you do all those things, it just makes a tremendous difference on the quality of life people have.
The on-bill program's been amazing because it also gives access to people that might not be able to traditionally get a loan by going to the credit union, home equity loan. It gives them different options to do a full project. So instead of just bare minimum, make their house just a little bit better, they're able to do the full project, do everything that needs to be done, and then be able to see the benefits of it, all while being really reasonable for the financing and being simple for them to do and simple for them to have access to. Certainly having it on my bill and not have to worry about it is the positive, but also the fact that when the house is sold, if the house gets sold, that payment goes with the house.
I expect my electricity bill will probably go down, so I'm using it for the heat pump, and my summer cooling costs will go down a lot.
And so I think it really opens it.
Thank you. So that's a really quick overview about what that one particular home community energy plan program did. And I wanted to show you the results and how it changed over time. So most utilities have a rebate program of some kind, and there's more official terminology to it. But this is how many kilowatt savings in 2009, basically 3 million. When the community energy plan started functioning, it grew to 8 million, 11 million, and then even got to 19 million kilowatt savings. So basically, over 6 times more in terms of energy savings. And that translates into energy dollars saved for residents. It stayed up and down, floated around, and now it stopped counting in 2022, but 161,000 kilowatts. So that is significant, and the same things are possible in the Board of Light and Power Service area. And this deals with the electricity. The same thing was going on with the gas in terms of reduction in energy use. Next slide. I just wanted to show you, these are the deep energy retrofits that were done without the benefit of on-bill financing. But you can see about half of the participants, 275 total, almost 4% of the city homes over this 6-year period, benefited from that tool as a way to make these deep energy retrofits happen. Next slide. I, as an individual, anecdotally, I wanted you to know that when I did it without the on-bill financing, but I saved 60% of my natural gas when I lived in Holland and 21% on electricity. I think this is the final, next slide, maybe. The community energy plan you're going to see is very well done. I mean, if I was a professor, in my opinion, it would get an A+. But it's a little bit dense, right? So one way to make it easy, in particular in association with home energy retrofit, but all the other strategies, is to divide it up into good, better, or best. As elected officials, you have interests that are far and above, beyond in considerations, not just energy. You're not silo focused. So you may feel that good is good enough. On the other hand, maybe you want to go for better depending on what the strategy is. So this is just a slide to show you an example of the kinds of things that you'll end up seeing when this is all done. This tonight is an introduction of how it's coming together. Good could be simply working with BLP and Michigan Gas as is now. You add this up, and that's almost $1,000 worth of rebates that's available. Yet, Franklin Energy, Energy Efficiency United could use our help in getting the word out. In Holland, we knocked on every door, 7,500 doors to get the word out. Better might be to adopt the Holland 101 energy program for 15%. Best might be to do both deep energy retrofits and the Holland 101 program, plus on-bill financing. I want to point out that with on-bill financing, it was written by the Michigan legislature to allow for code improvements as well, as long as it had some relationship to the energy savings. Next slide. And if you go back one slide, I should have pointed this out. At the bottom line, there's higher assessed values in addition to lower bills for residents. So the last slide is questions before I leave the podium. Anything I can answer?
Yes.
Thanks, Ryan, for putting this together for us. I know this has been a long road for you, and it's been kind of a grassroots project for you as well, so I appreciate it. Who is the financier in the home retrofits? Who puts the money up?
It evolved. It started out, there was something called the Holland Energy Fund that the Board of Public Works contributed to, based on the I call it a dividend, they called it a transfer, and then the city contributed to it also. I think it evolved, and then there was interest charged. So the interest was able to bring back any lost dollars, what's that called, when you lose interest over time. So anyway, it was an even Steven proposition. How we do it here, we don't know. Energy, it's called Michigan Saves, is an agency of the state government. I'm not sure if it's a state agency or quasi, but they make available low-interest loans. So that may be the approach we use here. We don't know. Board of Light and Power, as you know, has been a partner in this. We haven't had those conversations as to A, what the communities want, or B, how we're actually going to implement here. But we know it's possible because we've done it elsewhere.
Anyone else have any questions for Rand?
Thank you. I missed one of my points, and that is our leader for Michigan Energy Options is here tonight, and he and his staff has done the work that I would grade an A+. Ron Kinch.
And thanks for the grade. I haven't gotten a grade in a while. Thanks for having me again. I live at 1523 Pine Ridge in Grand Haven. And again, I appreciate having some of your time this evening and also your support of the community energy plan. We're almost across the finish line. I know you're looking at something that was in your board packet. That is one version of the plan. I'll tell you that we've created 3 versions of a plan plus some other assets we're going to put on the website. One of the plans is just a simple 2-page overview for most people to understand what's going on. It looks a little bit like this. What you have in your hand is something that we have tailored towards local governments to help you as decision makers make those decisions. I can tell you that one of the other emphasis we are having with our plan is to look for those no-cost, low-cost things that local governments can do to make some of this possible. So, for example, we had a conversation just a little bit earlier in the meeting about zoning ordinances. I can tell you, given how fast that the energy world has changed in the state of Michigan, that a lot of communities have ordinances and permitting processes that are a little bit behind the times. They're a little bit out of step with what we need. And so aligning some of those kinds of things like that is something that we're going to recommend as a strategy that doesn't really cost anything except for some people's time. Sustainability and Energy Commission, on which I serve along with several other people here, is a body that can be tackling something like that, or at least beginning to sift through it. I started working with Mayor Bob Manetza on the Muni codes at Grand Haven, and we were finding a number that were a little bit out of date. So then you're also going to be seeing or have available the real long report. This is the report that quants will want. This is with all the data crunching and all the details and resources. It's quite a heavy lift, but some folks are going to want that. We also know that that's something that is a calling card when we go out and look for money from outside of the community to support some of the programs that we're interested in doing. The money that's coming from the feds in the state is significant for programs. There's Solar for All, there's a home rebate program the state of Michigan is about to launch, which could then help homeowners, per Ryan's presentation there, to build a capital stack to help finance some of those kinds of projects. So the context is we have a couple things driving this in the state of Michigan. We have the My Healthy Climate Plan, which was adopted a couple of years ago. And then there's been recent legislation that's been moving forward to increase the energy efficiency standards for utilities. Rob Shelley is going to mention a bit about that, I think, in a second, as well as some other kinds of things. We're fortunate here in our community that we're a little bit ahead of this, that there's a few other communities that have done some stuff like this, Traverse City, Ann Arbor, but I think we have the opportunity for self-determination. Before we're kind of told what to do, we can kind of pick and choose some of these opportunities we see before us. And like I said, ideally, we're the ones in the community that are driving this change and helping make a difference. Now, here's what's going on in the energy waste reduction world, because my nonprofit company does a lot of that work for utilities. We work with the Lansing Board of Water and Light. We work with BLP. It's going to get tough to get some of those energy savings that we've got in the past. The classic example is LED lights are no longer recognized as a measured data or as a deemed measure. So we have to be creative about it. Plus, the utilities are going to be required to get more energy savings. So they need a community to be educated and engaged and interested in this and care about this. So a big part of our process has been to engage the community. But once we're done with this plan, a big part of that is still going to be to help people understand the value of doing this. A community energy plan and a utility plan are different, but they're oftentimes related and they rely upon each other. We're very fortunate here where we are that our incumbent utility, our municipal utility, is good at this. They've done a lot of energy savings already. They have a 24% renewable energy, solar energy portfolio in their mix of things, so they're already out there doing it. But it's going to take more of a collective effort to make this kind of thing happen. And last thing I want to say, and let Rob come up and speak for himself, is that this is sort of unique in having a regional approach to this. Most community energy plans stop at the local jurisdiction. So I think that really speaks to this community in which we have this kind of cooperation, this idea that we can share resources and expertise and make something happen in a regional kind of way, very much like we've done with the trails and bike paths and things like that. So very encouraged. You can look for results to be coming your way very soon. And as Ryan too, the idea would be that the local units of government, the councils, the elected officials such as yourselves, would be able to kind of pick and choose among a number of strategies. And then among those, have kind of a good, better, best scenario based upon what you think works for your community. And I'll stop there. Rob, come up, and then if there's any other questions, be happy to handle them. And welcome him as the new general manager of the BLP, by the way, if you haven't already. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, Rob.
Thank you. Thanks again for taking some time to let me come in and talk. So you have the handouts here. One of the paper there are the presentation tonight. So you don't have to try to take as many notes as we go along. The other ones are just some of our standard newsletters we put out to kind of let people know what we are doing. So Mr. Kinch stole a little bit of my thunder tonight. My goal here is to talk about our utility energy plan. So they're here to present on a community energy plan, and a utility energy plan are two different things. Different rules, different laws we have to abide by, and a community energy plan is more wide-reaching. So my goal here is to inform you on what the Board of Light and Power has done, where we're headed, so you can make an informed decision. So they talk about the good, better, best scenarios. I think if you don't know where the measuring stick is, it's hard to determine what's good, better, and best. So that's my goal here for tonight, is to talk about what the BLB has been doing for over 14 years. So we've been at this game for a long time. And if you have questions as we go through, feel free to interrupt and ask. But I'll try to get moving here so we don't take up all your precious time. So, I got that. Okay. So the BLP sustainability programs kind of fall into three buckets of what we do. We have renewable energy portfolio, or an RPS standard, renewable energy waste reduction, what we've been doing for many years, and the green energy program, which you guys are a member of as well. So I'll talk about the three programs we have, and then what we've done or what we've accomplished through there, and then what the next phase is. So, does it work here? Yeah. So I always like to start out and let everybody know that we're trying to do things at the Board of Light and Power as a balanced approach. We have a three-legged stool. It's the same old scenario here. You'll hear me say this many times at every presentation I ever come to you guys, is we have to make sure we're doing a balanced approach to utility management. So the three legs of our stool are sustainability, affordability, and reliability. And you can't do one real well and none of the others, otherwise the stool falls over, right? So the idea is making sure we're not getting into the weeds here. So reliability, we take that very seriously. We have the highest level of ranking from the American Public Power Association for our reliability. And that's everything from just not our outage numbers, but are you putting proper money back into the system? Are you doing planning, et cetera? Affordability. On average, in the summertime, we're 30% lower than consumers for residential customers. So we are very affordable. So I've been at the Board of Light and Power for 9 years, and since then we've only lowered our rates. So that's something we're pretty proud of. Not saying it's going to continue forever, but for 9 years to say you're paying less for electricity now than you were in 2015 is quite a statement. And then the big focus for tonight is the sustainability leg. What are we working on there? So I talked about our renewable portfolio. You can see the graph here kind of shows you what we've done over the last 14 years to get here. So back in 2008, 2009 timeframe, the state passed a law saying every utility has to start buying renewable energy. So you can see the three different little decals here tell you what has been added. So you can see the little landfill gas. So when we had to do this, the only thing you could buy was landfill gas. So we bought it. And by the way, that's the most expensive power we have in our power portfolio right now. So we'll be glad it's going to be falling off here in a few years. Then we were able to get into some wind projects. Pretty reasonably priced, and then lately we've been able to get into solar projects. So once again, wind in Michigan kind of got stalled. Solar in Michigan's starting to get stalled again as well. So some of the rules we'll talk about here, what the state has done, is important for everybody to understand what we're doing here. So if you look at that cumulatively, we're at well, it says we're under 24, but we're actually over 24 now, and we will be 28% next year if everything goes to plan. So every kilowatt hour that comes to you, 28% of that is coming from renewable energy sources. In order to make that conversion, a lot of it was we shut down our Sims plant. And that was done to save money for the community as well as environmental, but the big part of it was it just wasn't in the money. We have spent $11.5 million over the last 3 years alone on just renewable energy portfolio. Give you an idea of the amount of commitment we're putting into this. The next slide is about what we've been doing with our energy waste reduction. So similar to the slide Mr. Cotton showed, once again, Holland, Grand Haven, we are all following the same rules. State mandated that we had to come up with a 1% reduction in our energy sales. So we started that, and you can see over time, it's grown. Now these are cumulative effects. We assume once you put, let's say, an LED light bulb in, you continue using LED light bulbs. So we're using a baseline of 2014 here because that's when the state put in the program. But you can see that we have over 10% of our annual sales have been reduced cumulatively. So we've done 10% of this lift already. And that's our rebates, we've given back $4.2 million. Now I say given back because it's your money, ratepayers' money. So there's no such thing as a free LED light bulb. I think everybody understands there's nothing free. Those funds have been raised in our rates, and we were mandated to reduce energy consumption, and that's where those rebates come from. So when you recycle your refrigerator, thank your neighbor because your neighbor probably paid part of that bill for you to get your $50. But that's how these programs work. So like I said, we've logged over 33,000 megawatt hours. So that is, like I said, we sell about 300,000 megawatt hours a year. So like I said, about 10%. The last thing we have going on is we call our Green Energy Rider. So some of the statistics here are just to let you know that we've been asking, try to get this information out. What the Green Energy Rider is, I'll go over it quickly because I think you guys already are all aware of it because you're a member of this, is a way for you to go out and tell the BLP, buy more renewable energy on our behalf. We want to be more than your 24%. So roughly 50% of our residential customers say they're aware of it. About 45% say of our commercial customers are aware of it. But you can see to date, we're at 0.24% participation. Not a lot of takers. So that kind of goes into some of those things. So when we talk about that three-legged stool, we can't be pushing something that costs more money if our customers don't want that. So that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind, that balancing that stool, affordability with reliability with sustainability. But that gives you an idea of, please, we have no problem with this. If people want to be part of this program, let them know. Spread the word. As you can see, we're not getting a lot of takers on it. We've done a lot. Sad to say we had like 3 or 4 customers, that was it. And then we made a really big push, and we were all happy when we got like double digits. So we were doing really well. So that gives you an idea of the headwinds we're against. So kind of fruits in my next slide of, what do we do? How are we trying to get this information out to our community? So once again, how do we do? I gave you some of our publications there, constantly coming to places like here, trying to get this information out. So we'll take any help we can get. We want people to use less energy. We want people to be smart with their money. We want people to understand everything we are trying to do for them. So and take advantage of them. Like I said, it's your money when we talk about these rebates. You might as well claim some of your own money back. So, but like I said, it's just a slide here to let you know what we're doing. So, where do we go from here? So now you know where we're at. How do we get you there? So last November, so a little less than a year ago, the state passed some new laws. And two big ones for us are the PA 235 and 229. PA 235 is part of the My Healthy Climate Plan. It says that up to 2029, every utility in the state of Michigan is required to be 15% renewable. In 2030, you must be 50% renewable. And in 2035, you have to be 60% renewable. So that tells you, if you talk about good, better, best goals, they're saying meet up with the state mandates. These are the state mandates. So keep that in mind when you're talking about what your measuring stick is. Also goes along with PA 235. In 2035, we have to be what they call 80% clean energy. What's the difference between clean energy and renewables? Renewables are what you think of wind, solar, landfill gas, those types of things. Clean energy can be nuclear, carbon capture, natural gas, things like that, as long as it's got a carbon capture portion to it or carbon free. So keep in mind when we talk about these things, and I'm gonna kind of give them some information, is they're talking about a carbon footprint. Our sandbox we have to deal in the world is kilowatt hours, energy. They're looking for carbon neutrality, which is more things like bike paths, building codes, so on and so forth. If you don't drive your car to work, you bike to work, obviously you lower your carbon footprint. It doesn't do anything for my rebate programs. I can't claim any savings on that. So that's why it's important to realize there's a community plan and a utility plan. We have different rules and different things we have to work with. So, like I said, where we're going here, this is a big lift, to be honest with you. We're at 24%. We just at last Thursday's meeting had to sign another addendum, the second addendum to a PPA, a power purchase agreement, for the latest solar farm. It's been pushed back again. And the cost has gone up. So it's going to be a challenge, and every utility in the state of Michigan is fighting this challenge right now. So next is, so with all that renewable stuff I was just talking about, where is the BLP at now? Where did we come from? Where did we go? So we use a baseline of 2005. Why we use 2005 is because, once again, that's the state plan. That's what we're going to get measured against. So if we look back, if you know, been paying attention to any energy legislation, Michigan has got one of the most ambitious goals out there, behind the typicals, New York, California's, but we're very ambitious about carbon neutrality. So if you look, in 2005, from the BLP, we made 426,000 metric tons of CO2 a year. 2022, we're down to 123,000, a 71% reduction. If we do what we're planning to do by 2035, get to that 50%, 60% renewable goal, we'll be down around that 62,000 tons, 85% reduction. That's just following the state mandates that we are required to do. So keep in mind that the state's plan is to reduce it by 52% by 2030. We're already over that. So once again, community plan and utility plan are two different things. So we're doing really well on the side of on that, and we've been part of the, not really part of the sustainability committee. We've been there as a technical advisor, helping them through this, helping them understand it. We want to be people's local, trusted energy experts. So we've been helping with that. But their goals and ours are going to be, they touch, but they're different. So these are some of the projects we've bought into here recently that we are part of. So you can see BB, that's one of our wind projects, a couple of our solar projects there, and then what we have on slate for 2025 and 2026. And we are constantly evaluating, looking for more projects, not just renewables, but everything out there, because we need to make sure we have power for the Tri-Cities area. So that gives you an idea of where we're at, where we're going to. with that, the last slide, any questions?
Well, Rob, it's great to see that you're so successful with reducing your carbon emissions according to the state mandates. The state requirements for PA 235 and 229, are those realistic, attainable? Or pipe dreams out of Lansing?
I don't know. I think what happened is why I don't know. We're gonna do our best. That's what I'll tell you. Why I say I don't know is part of that PA 235 also was they took away local planning rights or zoning rights. So any utility scale wind farms, solar farms now, Lansing's going to decide, not your local planning commission, whether or not that goes forward or not. So some history there is the thumb of Michigan is the best spot of Michigan, well, one of the best spots in Michigan for wind. The utilities invested billions of dollars over there to improve the grid, to be able to export all that energy to where it's needed. They got about, I think, don't hold me to the number, 25 to 30% of what the capacity they thought they were going to get out of there before the local community said, enough is enough. They shut them down, put moratoriums on them. So that's what's going to happen. If they meet these goals, communities that have said enough is enough are going to get more. So that was going to be on the ballot. They tried to get it on the ballot for November, didn't make it. So we'll see how that happens. Without that piece of it, I don't know how you'd build it. You're just not going to get the zoning. You're not going to get the approvals. Solar seems to be okay right now. It's just okay. It was good. Now it's okay. Wind is, it's shut down. Nobody wants wind turbines. It's hard. It's hard.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything?
Thank you.
Yes, Gary.
Does your head hurt yet?
No.
I will be honest and tell you, I often feel over my head with this, but I do want to acknowledge that City Manager Craig Bessinger has attended many of our meetings also, and City Councilman Will Montgomery, who's not here tonight, has also attended. And Ferrisburg also elected a alternate representative, Dr. Nick Petrangelo, he's here tonight. And I've also been in touch with Nick about what we're trying to do and had the benefit of his advice. And so one of the things we've done is to try to make this more of a Ferrisburg plan and not a Grand Haven plan, is we've changed the name from the Grand Haven Area Community Energy Plan to the Northwest Ottawa Community Energy Plan, to try to get beyond one community. And it's our intention as John and his organization and our sustainability committee finalize the plan, we would like to come back to you and ask you for a statement of support. But before we get there, we wanted to be sure you have an opportunity to kind of start putting your hands around a fairly complex topic. And I really applaud the BLP. We're very fortunate to have such a leader in energy conservation working with us. And as Rob said, there was an overlap, but they're subject to different mandates. So it's we're working together, but not exactly on the same goals. But that's all we have for tonight, if you don't have any other questions.
I have a question, and that is, what kind of time frame is the city looking at from you guys? 6 months before we see you? And what are we going to see you regarding? A year? What are we looking at?
The document that Craig included in the packet was a draft, and we're working on sort of 3 versions, a really short 2-page summary, a 10-page summary, and then perhaps the full packet, which one of the things we spent quite a bit of time on was creating a timeline, how much energy was being used in the Tri-Cities 10 years ago, and then the benchmark, and then our projections, And as Rob pointed out, you know, instead of having multiple benchmarks, maybe we should just go with the one the state of Michigan has created. But to answer your question, Mayor, we're trying to wrap this up this year or shortly into the new year to get a final plan and start moving with it.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else have any other questions for any of the three individuals? Nope, okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. The reason we're here is Gary, his persistence. I'm Dr. Petrangelo, 19212 North Shore Drive. I've been involved in solar in various formats since the late 1980s. In the factories, putting it up, selling it, and this is not a sales pitch. Please believe me. That's not what I'm here for. And I realize that the energy plan is multifocal, and this is only part of the puzzle. But two things just happened in Michigan as an industrial state. Number one, consumers' power as we speak. Oh, first of all, this is a solar cell, and thank you for putting the solar on the roof. You're way ahead of everybody. This is the solar cell, if you've never seen one before. It's made out of polysilicon. That's going to come up again. So consumers' power right now, as we speak, are putting up 250 megawatts of solar cells in the Muskegon wastewater treatment plant land. Now, they must be doing this for a reason. When I first started looking into this and started to present this to people, everybody said 100%, 99%, except for visionaries. I'm in the room here. It's never going to work in Michigan. All right, answer me, why is consumers' power putting up 250? Number one. Number two, Michigan's an industrial state. Just today it was announced. Polysilicon is the raw material of growth. This was just announced about 6 hours ago. The government, the United States government, is putting in $325 million grant to Hemlock Semiconductor in Hemlock, Michigan. Okay? Why is that? Well, Hemlock Semiconductor makes polysilicon. Now, it's not all going to go to solar cells. Obviously, it's going to go to computer chips. With the explosion of artificial intelligence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing that comes into the equation here is China. China, hear that every single day, whatever topic you're talking about. China is responsible for 93% of the polysilicon that goes in this. 93%. This is an enormous industry that's grown like stink. I'm going to quote a few things here. Just take a look at the growth. I have one copy. I'm either going to give it to Gary. I know I promised you one else. Sun machines. Now, the transition in my mind was I got into this. My background is not government. It's not industrial. It's not power generation. It's medicine. And I'm seeing all these particulates in the air from coal burning power plants. I was in the Department of Anesthesia for the ventilator work. So you change the filter on your furnace, don't you? You know, unless you want a lung transplant, you don't replace it. So that's the reason I got involved in photovoltaics, because again, there's no pollution. There's no moving parts. These solar cells are warranty guaranteed for 25 years to produce 85% of the power that's rated on the way. Try to get that guarantee in 25 years. No pollution, it's distributed generation, so that there's no transmission of power. There can be transmission of power, but when they're put on your roof or an industrial building, you use the power first. And anything that's extra is exported through the grid, thanks to Grand Haven Power. So what moved me is reading this article and the fact that we just had a place in Florida, small little condominium. And these last two storms, I was 99% convinced of global change. Now, was it natural or was it man-made? Well, after these two storms in Florida, Helene and Milton, I'm 100% convinced now. 100% convinced. And if this isn't controlled, pollution isn't controlled, just think how things are going to get. So the exposure to Florida is, when we first got into it a couple of years ago, the condo, insurance rates were here. And they're going to go through the roof after this last two insults. So that's an economic decision, not a pure, I'm sort of in between. I'm a dreamer, but I'm not a utility and I'm not a government individual. But I saw this, and this is what surmised. So the Sun Machines. You have a very, two things about, I know I'm all over the place here, so forgive me. Solar cells are going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Again, this is the economic part of it. This is The Economist. That's the equivalent of the Wall Street Journal in Britain. So this goes to the world. Sun Machines, an energy source which gets cheaper the more you use it. It marks a turning point in industrial history. Just a few points. Am I taking too much time? Tell me to shut up.
You have a couple minutes.
Couple minutes.
1 minute.
4 minutes. Okay, just a few
Football's
points
on tonight.
from this article. Again, The Economist. We're talking about money now. According to the International Solar Energy Society, solar power is on track to generate more electricity than all the world's nuclear power plants in 2026. So this is not popular science or investment. Then it's wind turbines in 2027, then it's dams in 2028. It's gas-fired power plants in 2030, and it's coal-fired ones in 2032. The International Energy Agency scenario, which provides net zero carbon dioxide emissions by the middle of the century. Solar energy, we're at 25 now, or pretty close to 25. That's not very long, another 25 years. Solar energy becomes mankind's largest source primary energy. That's not me saying. That's the investment community saying. Not just electricity, which it will exceed by the 2040s. So the largest source of primary energy, which are all different sources, but just electricity, 2040s. It's coming quick. It will be the steepest drop in the price of one of the basic factors of production that the world economy has ever seen. Again, these are not my words.
And in conclusion.
I'm sorry?
And in conclusion.
And in conclusion. Let me just, there's a lot here, and I don't mean to be each and taking anything away from these people. But just right around here, and then I'll shut up. North Shore Marina has solar cells you can see on the roof, several megawatts. Marina off of 104, I think they've changed their name. They have 3 buildings that have solar cells. If you want to see a large application, It's smart vision lights across from the airports. You have flat roofs here, industrial buildings here, and the cost of solar cells will get cheaper and cheaper. And it is approaching the cheapest power base of the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Anyone else have anything to say regarding the work session on energy? Nothing. Let's move forward to 7E, work session rental rates. I would certainly entertain a motion, since this is something we can postpone, to table this to the next meeting when Mr. Montgomery is here.
Go ahead. I was gonna make a motion to,
Please.
post the table. Rental rates. So
Great. Any
Does
support
that work for our tenants?
That
Think
works,
we-
yep. No
Okay,
problem.
yeah, because we've delayed this once already.
Yep.
What do
And
we
the
do?
tenants have been told
Do we
it's been
extend them
delayed.
30 days or is it month to month?
I'm gonna do a short-term rental agreement with them.
So, and how long is that agreement good for?
It'd be good, it can go up to 9 months.
So it's month to month essentially, then, for 9 months. Okay.
Yes. So Craig, there's no downside in,
No downside.
thank you. I'll second.
Support. Okay, motion and support on the floor. Amber?
Councilmember Kate,
Yes.
Councilmember Sias,
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley,
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
motion passed.
Moving forward to public comments on number 8. Do we have any other additional public comments from anyone here tonight? Seeing none, let's go on. Report, city manager.
No report?
Very good. Jake, would you like to go first tonight, please?
Sure. Few things from KLH, Dunes Preserve Board. We are still wrapping up the shoreline restoration project. We have some unused money there. I'm still finalizing that, but that's close to being done. As far as the Economic Development Corporation, we voted to resolve that. Council, we adopted that resolution tonight. That'll be sent off to the state, and they will approve that, right? Or approve to dissolve the corporation?
I understand we just file it. Yeah.
Okay. And then after they act on that, then we will act as a council to investigate a new economic development advisory board.
Correct.
That's it.
Very good. Jerry?
No report.
Okay. Debbie?
Halloween party, Monster Mash is Friday at City Hall, 6 to 8. And we welcome anyone that wants to help us decorate at 1 o'clock in the gym that day on Friday. So hope to see some of you there and to report.
What day was that?
Friday.
This coming
25th.
Friday?
The 25th.
Hey, Debbie, would it help if the city put out something on social, maybe asking for community volunteers to help you guys? Has it been published on the socials at all, or?
We've just asked in general, but I can put.
It might help just to have a call out for the
Yeah,
community.
It would be great to have. It's a big job.
Mr. DeWitt?
Craig, years ago, the city participated in a tree program where citizens could come to the city and order 2 or 3 trees and pick them up at City Hall. You recall that?
No, I do not.
Well, she was a lot older than I was. Anyway, is that something we could investigate with PA or whatever?
The other conservation district, they offer native trees and plants for sale once a year.
Is that something we could put a flyer together and maybe put it in our next newsletter?
Once we get the pricing for, we'll go out in spring and we can share that with the public, sure.
Right, because, you know, a lot of trees got damaged in a storm and such what, and people are looking to replace them. But they don't necessarily want to buy a $500 tree at the nursery. So that was brought up to me. Other than that, I got nothing else.
If you have not been to the newly reopened Ottawa Sands Park, you are missing a great treat. It's amazing. Take some time and go out there. They've done a wonderful job.
And the
our
report?
mayor spoke at the ribbon cutting.
I did.
Oh, one additional thing, by the way, you did an excellent job at the recognition luncheon.
Thank you.
You impressed me.
Thank you. Is that end of report, Mr. Kate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. I'd like to report that Mr. Kate and I went to the police commission meeting last Monday, and city manager Bessinger as well, and all is well and moving forward. We have a new sergeant that's assisting Ferrisburg and Spring Lake now, which is wonderful, and a couple new hires, but everything's going well. Monday, Planning Commission met. We're holding special meetings because we've got a target to get our master plan finished up. Every 5 years, the city needs to go through and reevaluate our master plan, and we're trying to get the finishing touches done on that before year end, which is when Roger Jonas, who is chairing Planning Commission, is going to be off, and then Gary Post will be serving on Planning Commission. Our goal is to get that done by the end of December. So Planning Commission's really stepping up to the plate. We've got 2 or 3 meetings a month, October, November, and then December. Wednesday, it was my pleasure to speak at the Visitors Recognition Luncheon, which was great for West Michigan Towable Solutions, and it was a great event. Thursday and also on Wednesday, at that same time, I normally go to the Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting up in Muskegon for regional transportation, including Smiths Bridge. I couldn't go, so Mayor Pro Tem Montgomery went in my place. Thursday, we did have the grand opening at Ottawa Sands, like Commissioner Kate had talked about, and that was a great experience. I was able to speak as leadoff speaker, batting leadoff, which was great fun. And it is a fantastic park, great asset for Ferrisburg as a whole. I did put my remarks on Ferrisburg Informed, calling out all of our great parks and everything else, calling the city of Ferrisburg the city of parks. We've been looking for some branding. Whether we can do anything with that, I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, end of report.
Motion to adjourn.
Very good.
Second.